It wasn't supposed to end like this, but it has. The most advanced teams in Formula 1 just missed the deadline. Engines that won't fire up, chassis that don't pass crash tests, and simulations that are returning data no one trusts. Now, with just days left before Barcelona, some of the grid's biggest names, Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, are preparing to launch cars they haven't even tested properly. The paddock knows. The FIA knows. And behind the scenes, panic is spreading fast. But what's coming next is worse. Because once those cars hit the track, everything they've been hiding, every failure, every shortcut, every political compromise, will be exposed in full view. And one team may be hiding a disaster they can't control. This was supposed to be the smoothest regulation transition in years. The FIA gave the teams time, plenty of it, for years of warnings, 3 full seasons of development windows, and a final, lockdown rulebook that every technical director agreed to. And yet, here we are, days before the most important preseason test in modern Formula 1. And multiple teams are still rushing to finish basic integration work. We're not talking about setups or aero tweaks. We're talking about cars that aren't fully assembled, engines that haven't passed dyno testing, and electronic systems still throwing faults. Red Bull, the reigning champions, have pushed their internal deadlines twice. Their brand new Ford power unit, built in-house for the first time, has yet to complete a full race simulation. Sources close to Milton Keynes say thermal management is a problem, and the hybrid system isn't delivering consistent output across multiple runs. Mercedes, meanwhile, is in a very different kind of trouble. They've built their 2026 car around a lightweight rear-end concept designed for ultra-efficient electric deployment. But now, internal cooling issues and power losses are forcing last-minute packaging compromises that could undo months of aero work. Ferrari? They've made a bold move. They've gone heavier, betting on a more durable combustion unit with steel cylinder heads. It's a high-risk strategy, one that could pay off over race distance, or leave them vulnerable to the very thing 2026 punishes most, inefficiency. Then you've got Alpine, who've abandoned Renault power completely. They're now clients of Mercedes, but with no data, no heritage systems, and zero experience managing third-party engine deployment under live conditions. They're entering this new era as a wild card, fast on paper, untested in reality. And while all this unfolds, the FIA has kept its distance. No last-minute clarifications. No extensions. The message has been clear. Time's up. You run what you've built. But that's exactly what has every team on edge. Because what they've built might not be ready. It started with Ferrari. Whispers that the dyno numbers weren't matching expectations. A few percentage points off at first. Then more. Then signs of uncontrolled heat spikes during high-load testing. Internally, they've kept it quiet. But suppliers know when a team's behind. When stress builds in the simulation department, it trickles down, to logistics, to comms, to suppliers. Then came Red Bull. Not a disaster, not yet. But multiple sources say the Ford-built ERS module is still struggling with reliability. In certain modes, it surges power unpredictably on throttle lift. In others, it fails to deliver the full electrical recovery, especially in high-altitude simulations. And the biggest problem? It's not the hardware. It's the clock. Because once freight leaves for Spain, there's no more bench testing. No more overnight patch fixes. What's in the crate is what hits the track. And for Mercedes, that's becoming a problem too. Because while their power unit has run more hours than any other, the car around it hasn't. Assembly delays, rear suspension flex issues, and software deployment bugs have kept the W17 behind schedule. One senior source called the situation runnable, but fragile. That's the word now. Fragile. Not just for one team. For nearly all of them. Because this isn't about chasing lap time anymore. It's about fielding something that survives. Here's where things get uncomfortable. Because behind closed doors, some engineers have started saying what no one will admit publicly. That the FIA's 2026 timeline was impossible from the beginning. Not just tight. Not just aggressive. But structurally flawed. Sources from multiple teams, including 2 engine manufacturers, now claim that internal feasibility reports, dated as far back as 2022, warned the governing body that this rollout would require at least 6 more months of development time. Those reports were read, then quietly ignored, because admitting delay wasn't an option. Sponsors had already been briefed. Public messaging was committed. And the image of Formula 1, pushing into a bold new hybrid era, couldn't be slowed down. Even if the technology itself wasn't ready. And that's the twist. It's not just that the teams are late. It's that everyone knew they would be. The FIA, behind the scenes, has already begun preparing emergency clauses, exceptions for technical non-compliance, allowances for limited battery deployment, and even fallback engine modes, in case certain cars can't run the full energy split without system failure. That's not oversight. That's silent crisis management. And while none of this has been made public yet, the teams know. And more importantly, they know each other knows. Which means when testing begins, we're not just going to see lap times. We're going to see how far each team was forced to compromise, how many rules were bent, and which performance numbers are simply being faked to keep the illusion alive. The most revealing part of all this isn't what the teams are saying. It's what they're not saying. No one is issuing statements. No one is confirming delays. And that silence, that tightly controlled, almost scripted silence, isn't confidence. It's protection. Multiple teams have postponed media days without explanation. Engine suppliers have canceled briefings. And several planned technical launches, events meant to show off new power units and integration systems, have quietly vanished from the schedule. Why? Because no one wants to be the first to admit they're behind. The first to break ranks. The first to shatter the illusion that 2026 is under control. And the FIA? They've gone quiet too. No updated technical clarifications. No enforcement bulletins. No comments about rumored test failures inside the dyno rooms in Viry, Brixworth, or Milton Keynes. Because once someone speaks, once the first public admission of "we're not ready" goes live, the rest of the structure starts to crack. That's why this moment is so tense. It's not a loud crisis. It's a silent one, where teams are pretending that everything is fine. But behind closed doors, they're preparing backup systems, limited power modes, and fallback deployment strategies. Not to win, but just to survive the first 3 races. And that's what no one is explaining. Not because they don't know, but because they know exactly how bad it really is. The moment the cars hit the track in Barcelona, everything changes. Because that's when the public will see, not the lap times, but the reality. Which teams are lifting early to manage energy? Which ones are overheating mid-stint? And which ones don't show up at all? That's when the narrative breaks open. And the consequences won't stop at embarrassment. If the rumors are true, and multiple teams arrive with incomplete systems, non-compliant software, or fallback power modes just to run basic laps, then the FIA will be forced to act. Not because they want to, but because someone will protest. And when that happens, the 2026 championship stops being about speed. It becomes a legal game. A strategic arms race. About who bent the rules most effectively. Without getting caught. The pressure will shift. Top teams will stop chasing performance and start chasing protection. Secondary teams will start negotiating political leverage, using silence as currency. And the midfield? They'll just try to survive the first 3 races, without a catastrophic public failure. But here's what no one saw coming. This crisis might create new winners. Not because they're the fastest, but because they're the least compromised. Teams that played it safe, that avoided exotic ERS strategies or experimental battery chemistries, may suddenly find themselves consistent. And in a season where half the grid is flying blind, consistency might be all it takes. That's the shift. This isn't a fight for dominance anymore. It's a fight to stay in the game. So now, it begins. Not the season, not the racing, but the unraveling. Because once the cars roll out in Barcelona, we'll see the truth, but only the surface of it. The real stories? They'll happen behind the telemetry, inside the debrief rooms, where engineers are rewriting parameters, just to make it through each run. What we've seen so far, delays, shutdowns, and silent paddocks, that's not the crisis. That's the signal. That something deeper is failing inside Formula One's new era. And the most dangerous part? It hasn't happened yet. It'll come weeks later, when the grid lines up in Bahrain, when the lights go out, when the first car doesn't finish the formation lap, when power units start falling offline mid-race, when emergency protocols kick in on live broadcasts. That's when the illusion collapses, and the panic that's been building in silence finally explodes in full view. And if that happens, there will be no hiding it. No contingency plan. No quiet fix. Because this isn't just a technical problem anymore. It's a system-level failure. The kind that forces change. Not by vote, but by disaster. So yes, F1 teams just ran out of time. But what comes next might be the moment Formula One runs out of control.